Hello and welcome to the Refs Need Love To podcast. I've got a short eulogy that I'm going to read. Don't worry, it's not uber sad, but it is an important one that I do have to call out at the beginning of this podcast. But before I do, again, just want to remind you guys, thank you so much for all of your support. Listen, Father's Day is coming up in just about a month. I was actually just with my dad down in Florida this last week. He's 82 years old. He's getting ready to have some pretty serious surgery, not heart bypass surgery, but a femoral bypass surgery it's pretty serious. It's a decently long surgery. It's a long recovery, but I'm hoping that gives him some relief and mobility. But I just want to tell you guys again, I so love my dad. I so love my wife, my kids, and I'm just thankful for every time I get to give them a hug and tell them that I love them. That is the truth. Every day, whether or not you're having a good day, you're having a bad day, whether you might be upset about something, stressed about something, just make sure that the people that you love know that you love them, know how you feel about them. Tell them often. Take the time to give them that hug, share a laugh, put down your phone for a second, have a brief conversation, see what's going on in their lives, because you never know if you're going to have that opportunity again. Yeah, I just want to give this opportunity to tell my dad, if he's listening to this podcast, sometimes he listens to the podcast, again, how much I love him and how much I appreciate him and all that he's done for me throughout my life. Okay, enough of that emotional stuff as I start crying here into the microphone. If you are looking for a good gift for someone who's a referee, think about supporting the Refs Need Love To store online. Again, all the purchases that go to that store get put to really good causes. I can donate to different causes. Also, you'll see a video from me this week I've been trying to get out for my friend Paul, the guy who actually created the Refs Need Love To scorecards. If you've purchased any of them, he's doing a marathon to help raise money for women who have been trafficked, human trafficking. And the more you guys purchase, the more he can contribute. He's taking his portion of funds for those cards this month, and he's using it towards his fundraising goal. I'm using my matching contribution, what I normally pay him, and I'm putting it towards that fundraising goal for him for human trafficking. So there's all sorts of good stuff. We help create more content, more training information for referees. I've got a number of different projects going on right now. But yeah, everything you purchase from that store, whether it's merchandise, t-shirts, the Refs Need Love To kit, new flags, whistle, anything like that, coins, all of those things go back to supporting this channel and the referee community. Hey, if you have a dad who's a referee, or someone who's a dad who's a referee, or if you're a referee and you're a dad, just tell your family, hey, go to the Refs Need Love To store, go purchase something there, and it goes back into making this channel possible. So if you get love and joy out of this, hey, it's a really good place to put your funds. Those scorecards are made here in the USA, which is fantastic. It also supports small businesses here in Georgia. So just wanted to throw that out there. And again, remind you guys, spend time with your family. Tell your loved ones you love one. That's a really important thing to do. One more thing before we get to the eulogy is to remind you guys, support, again, people who are developing products for referees. Puro. I've heard from many of you guys who have gone out to Official Sports, used my code Refs Need Love To buy your Impero shoes. You need to do it. They're fantastic. They are the best in between. It's not a cleat and it's not a sneaker, and it's better than a turf shoe. It's specifically made for referees. It's got like serious grip on the back of it that you would have in like a cross country hiking type shoe. And then on the front of it, it's got what you need that would normally be on like a turf or cleat type shoe. So it's like a combination of that, but they're light and they're flexible. They're the lightest shoes I've ever owned running on the pitch, but they feel great. It moves with you when you're running, but it also gives you that great grip as well. So definitely go to Official Sports, use my code Refs Need Love To get them. Again, with that code, I think it's $106 for top of the line killer referee footwear. You cannot beat that with a stick. Please, again, created by a fellow referee, Leland Grant. Again, it's just a wonderful thing to do. He's got a lot of other things he's thinking about as well. So the more we support him now, the more great products we'll get in the future. So thank you so much for supporting Leland, and make sure you use that code. I will also say too, you could also use that code for the Ref 6 Pro app if you get the Ref 6, or if you already have Ref 6, just use that code Refs Need Love To the next time you need to purchase your subscription. Okay. And you get 20% off of that too. Fantastic. My gosh. 20% off. You're already buying the subscription or paying $9 a month or $7 a month, whatever. Hey, save yourself a couple bucks every month. Winds up being pretty significant at the end of the year, $20 or $30 a year if you use that code. So do it for RefSick as well. All right, guys. And now for the eulogy. Again, I promise I don't think you're going to cry through this one, but I felt like it needed to be said as we end the high school soccer season here in Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, referees, coaches, players, and even you screaming sideline parents with air horns and conspiracy theories, we are gathered here today to mourn the passing of the 2025 spring high school soccer season. It lived a full life, about 3 months, give or take a cancellation for a thunderstorm or two. It brought with it moments of triumph, heartbreak, offside calls that were definitely offside, no matter what Coach Steve says. As a referee with over 10 years of experience, I've seen many seasons come and go, but this one hit a little different. Maybe it was the kids who actually said thank you after a game. Maybe it was the coaches who managed to get through an entire half without screaming, handball, like they were screaming, bingo. Or maybe it was just the unusually good post-game snacks. Shout out to whoever brought those homemade chocolate chip cookies. You are seen. To my fellow referees, we survived. We survived rain, wind, 5 different sets of lines on the field, and that one coach who thinks every foul called against him is a personal vendetta. We survived the cold nights, the last-minute assignments, and the eternal mystery of how players can remember 40 TikTok dances, but not the fact that simply hitting the ball at some point in the challenge does not negate the fact you slid through the opponent, cleaning them out, and it's still a foul. To the players, you ran, you played, you occasionally remembered the laws of the game. Some of you learned sportsmanship. Some of you learned that yellow cards mean you must leave the field in high school. Either way, we're proud of you. To the parents, you kept things interesting. Your passion is unmatched. Your interpretation of the rules, also unmatched by reality. But hey, you're part of the magic too. Now the fields grow quiet, the whistles are silent, our black socks can finally take a break from being misidentified as compression gear for senior citizens. But make no mistake, the spirit of the season lives on, in our memories, in our laundry, and in the lingering injuries that just won't seem to properly heal. Rest in peace, high school season. You were loved. You were chaotic. You were deeply and professionally sweaty. See you next spring. I'll miss you. I love you. And now for our podcast. Hello and welcome to the Refs Need Love 2 podcast, a show that gives you a real, raw, and behind-the-scenes view of one of the hardest jobs on the pitch, the referee. I'm your host, David Gerson, a grassroots referee and certified mentor with over 11 years of experience and over 1,300 matches under my belt. You can find me at refsneedlove2.com, on Instagram, TikTok, and now YouTube. Today's guest is John Collins, a national coordinator of men and women's soccer officials for the NCAA. John brings a wealth of experience to the role with a background that spans nearly every level of the game, from player to referee, assessor, administrator, playing and officiating, eventually rising through the ranks as a U.S. soccer national referee and earning his emeritus status. In addition to leading NCAA officiating, John is a national referee coach for U.S. Soccer, a pro assessor and talent identifier, and a key member of the USYS East Region Referee Committee. His passion for referee development is rooted in a belief that integrity, character, and mentorship are essential to success, both on and off the field. Through decades of service, John has helped shape the careers of countless officials and continues to lead efforts to raise the standard of officiating at the collegiate level and beyond. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here. And it sounds impressive when you read it like that. So thanks for that. Could you read that again for my wife?
Seriously, I could do that as a gift.
Yeah. Let me just say, from someone that has been in this passionate advocacy for a whole bunch of years, I do appreciate everything that you're doing for the referee program. The program, as I've described to you in private, and given a voice to the hundreds of thousands of we have in this country.
I sincerely appreciate it. And John, I have to tell you, your reputation precedes you. I've told a couple people that we're going to be having a conversation. They're like, oh, John's a great guy. Love that guy. Like over and over again.
One of those guys, whoever they are.
That's right. Yeah. You've obviously, again, involved in pro, involved in collegiate, involved in USYS, you've been someone who's been throughout all parts of the game and developed a stellar reputation, at least from the people I've spoken to, John. I haven't found the ones that don't like you. I'm sure there are a few out there, but we're not going to listen to them anyway.
In my era of refereeing, when we walked off the field, we'd always say, we fooled them again. So we fooled them again. They think we know what we're doing. So that's great.
Awesome, man. Let's take a little time to learn a little about you, okay? Because, again, you are NCAA head of officials, but that wasn't always your full-time gig. You were actually in finance. And so how did you go from a finance professional to now national referee, leader, national coach, NCAA head of officials?
Yeah. So the bad news is I still have my day job in finance, right? Now,
don't we all still have our day job? I know.
My colleagues at the NCAA, the men's basketball national coordinator is full-time job. Mine is not. Sure. Sadly, we're not a revenue sport, but we are the largest number of collegiate officials, NCAA officials is soccer. We are the largest now as of last year. Yes. We are now the leader in terms of number of officials. We've grown to 5,380-ish. So we're very proud of that. But no, so I do have a day job. I work in private finance, and we got to pay the bills with something, right? So, right. And then this is the job that you're just thankful to get up and be able to be part of it at a higher level, and be in a leadership role, which is a nice way when you're not running around like guys like you, because we're roughly the same age. I'm only a couple years older, but I don't have to worry about the fitness as much.
I just want to follow up on that question, or that you mentioned a factoid there about 5,300 officials, and we are the largest group of collegiate officials, like for a certain sport.
Yes.
So bigger than American football, because that's just a men's sport. Yeah. Baseball is just a men's sport. But obviously soccer spans both men and women, and our officials are doing both men and women's matches at all levels of the game. I hadn't really thought about that. There's probably not too many sports that actually work like that. Maybe only basketball.
Yeah, the difference, and the reason I think we win is because men's and women's basketball technically have two different rule books.
Right.
So they're considered two different sports.
Okay.
It is not the crossover that we have. So in the NCAA championship world, and we'll probably get into a little bit later, but in basketball, for example, men's basketball, you'll have Division I men's basketball referees, and they'll work in that championship tournament. They basically work at that level. In college soccer, you can work, most of our referees work at all the levels, all three, men and women. Right.
Yeah, so, they're doing one, they're doing Division I, they're doing NAIA, they're doing all over the place, men and women's too. Yeah, that's very interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and in soccer, so I'm one national coordinator. I have 6 championships, men and women, Division I, II, and III, and the men and the women, each division has their own national coordinator. So I'm like, hey, what am I doing wrong here? They're all great folks, but so it's a little structured a little differently. But for years and years, we probably would be in maybe 100 to 1,800 referees registered with the NCAA. That doesn't mean there's more. There's roughly 5,000 that work collegiate soccer, but in terms of registering with the NCAA formally, we're the leader in terms of numbers anyway. And so we're now trying to match with our passion for excellence, so to speak. So,
I love that.
That's our goal. And listen, I hope you have me back at some point whether it's next year, the year after, whatever. And I say, hey, David, we hit 6,000, and that would be a great result. So
we're definitely going to talk about how someone becomes an NCAA official, because I think that is a little opaque to a lot of people. So we're going to talk about that in our conversation. But I want to go back a little bit. So you started before you were this NCAA head of officials. You were a player, and you actually spent time playing goalkeeper at the NCAA level at Fairfield, just like current US M&T goalkeeper Matt Turner. So I just want to ask a little bit about you as a referee, because you were a national level referee. How did your playing experience as a goalkeeper shape the way you view referees and referee development?
Well, first I have to say there's a big debate on campus whether Turner or Collins was the better goalkeeper for Fairfield. Not even close. We played offline. I'll tell you about my experience playing Division I back in the early 90s. I only played for 2 years, and my career was cut due to injuries and things like that. But no, being a player at a high level is really helpful, and not just for the game experience, but I think the coaching you get, professional coaching and whatever, and how you're taught, it helps you give a perspective, right? You understand a perspective of how people at a high level think, and really the stakeholders of our game, right? So from that standpoint, it really, for me, it translated. And I think one of the biggest things of being a player or a coach or at a reasonably high level is, how to become a critical thinker. And that's a big thing. I think I sent you one of my presentations. That's a big thing of mine. That's how my playing days, it translated. And really, I got hurt. I was starter brought in. The world would end if I didn't miss a game my freshman year, and then my sophomore year, a couple injuries, concussion, one of them, and then I lost my spot. And my friend Andy did a great job and played, and I just never lost the passion playing due to the injuries and those kinds of things. And because I had been refereeing since I was 14, it was fairly easy for me to switch gears and find a new place to keep my passion for the game. And what started out as part-time job when you're 14 and good money when you're in college. So find the cheapy sandwiches at night. You get to buy sandwiches with me because I referee games and versus working for minimum wage. It's translated really well for me. And I'm just thankful for all the life skills that refereeing gives you and things you can bring from your life into refereeing. For me, it's been just a fun ride. And I'm just thankful I still get to participate at this level. So,
yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about that in that specific role of the NCAA national coordinator for men's and women's soccer. What is that? How do you get involved?
I've only been doing it for 2 years now, so I'll let you know when I figure it out. Now, so my main role is, I think I mentioned earlier, we have 6 NCAA championships for soccer, Division 1, 2, and 3, men and women. So I'm in charge, and I oversee all the assignments to the 6 championship tournaments. I have a team of officiating advisors, and I have a coordinator of referee education, and I'm in charge of that. I'm the team captain of that, if you will. I manage that team. All of those people are wonderfully qualified. We have former FIFA referees and all sorts of things. And if you looked at the roster, you'd be like, Collins, how the heck are you the captain of this team? And our job, the 6 of us, and then the 7 with our coordinator of education, we assign the match officials for the championship tournaments. And then we also set the educational parameters for all college NCAA officials, I should say. And so we do that through a central training hub. It's called the Center Circle, NCAA Soccer Center Circle, or the Central Hub. If you want, I'll get you access
Please.
So you can see what we do there and see if any of that resonates for you. And we provide training, video clips, real time. Any protests that come in, we are transparent. We post those out. And that hub actually is shared by our 5,300 officials, but also around 2,000 coaches and about 180 conference administrators and about 45 conference coordinators, officials. So it's all out there, and we can share information and points of emphasis and clips, or this is what we saw and this is what we like, or this is something we need to crack down on, or this was protest and here's why, and here's the decision in terms of that. So it's our job to really provide the coordinators of officials and the actual officials a framework for education throughout the season and throughout the year. And then I also work with the championship committees, 6 championship committees, and report to them in terms of who are using and why. And I sit on the rules committee I don't have a vote. I'm there as a consultant, and I do have a voice, but I don't have a vote, right? So yeah. I sit on there and for example, we have an experimental video review being tried out this fall. I sit on those meetings. And so really just our job is to do our best to prepare our people to best serve college soccer from the officiating standpoint. Yeah. And so whatever hours I have available to do, that's what we do in 100 different ways, right?
Yeah, I do want to ask a little bit more. So I was not aware of the Center Circle education platform, which I'm really very interested in. We are so getting connected on that because there's not a lot of official video analysis, coaching, and decisions, like people actually stating decisions on, hey, this is what happened, here's our position on it. Like even at FIFA Red, which is what the international officials and professional officials have access to. They've just redone it. There's very little information on there. I tried searching the other day looking for video clips on what is examples of a deliberate play versus not a deliberate play for offside purposes. Couldn't find anything. Couldn't find a thing. And so it's really hard to find clips where you actually have a body willing to say, hey, this is this, and this is why. It's very difficult. I'd love to hear that you're doing that.
Yeah. And one of the things, and I don't want to get you too excited about it, but one of the things we have is you make the call, right? Yeah. You post it. Everybody can log in and make their call. And we can see who answers what and whatever, maybe if there's room for comments. And then 2 or 3 days later, we'll give the preferred answer. And it's a real robust platform. It's called RefQuest. I don't know if you've heard of RefQuest, but it's used by all the sports. And RefQuest is the partner with the NCAA through 2032, I believe.
Wow.
And yeah, it's great. And it's a great way to get information out to people because you can't get together for those kind of people throughout the country. So it's a good way to provide that kind of analysis and framework for decisions and rules and things like that. And then obviously the officials can work with their coordinators, officials for the conferences they work for, and those kinds of things. And
all right, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here,
Sure.
John. Okay, so this wasn't our discussed conversations going into this, but
yeah,
I just want to ask, with the proliferation of soccer now, football all across the world, it has become obviously the largest sport in the world, but here in America it's becoming more and more popular, and you're seeing so much international influence into all these programs, whether it's Division 1, 2, 3, you name it, it's a lot of internationals. Why in this day and age do we still have a separate rule book for college soccer? And why not just adopt IFAB? I understand participation and want to have more substitutions, right? It's still a school sport. I get that. But why not just adopt more of what the IFAB language is as opposed to having a whole separate rule book?
Yeah, good question. So I didn't realize you were going to try to get me fired here today.
Sorry, don't
yeah.
answer.
So no. So the NCAA is the governing body, right? So they have their own rule books for everything. Now they do have a couple of sports, I should say, that where they don't have their own rule book and they use the international rules of competition and things like that. I think like gymnastics or some water polo. I don't know.
Maybe tennis or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, but so the rules pretty much line up. The playing rules, the core playing rules line up with IFAB and the secretary rules editor, Rich Grady, he's a former FIFA referee. And we do our best to consult to make sure we line up as much as we can with IFAB. Yeah. And hopefully the rules are more administrative. The big thing we have, the big difference is the clock, right? Clock on the board.
Big time. Big time.
That's it, really. Years ago, I would say, oh, geez, there's no way IFAB and NCAA will get together because IFAB will never card coaches, right?
Yeah.
And FIFA they had done trials in the past with doing like 30 minutes running clock, stopping the clock, all those things. The stakeholders are just not ready for the clock to be off the board. I can't explain why, at least in this forum, but I have to say the NCAA is a membership-driven organization between member conferences and member institutions, and they're very serious about the policies and procedures in place and how they create their rules, and it's very robust. And if someone would ever say, geez, I didn't have a say or I didn't know, I'd be like, that is not true. It's a very institutionalized in that, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you other than...
No, it's okay. Listen, I recognize there's a lot of stakeholders involved. It's not a simple answer without a doubt.
Right.
There's a lot of, I think, inertia because it's been there for a long time. And it's so funny for anytime I do a post on my channel about high school or college and talk about the clock, you'll probably have a lot of people from Europe like, oh, that's so American. That's so ridiculous. And then on posts where I do something about someone's doing some time wasting or something of nature, then you'll have the same idiots like, man, they should institute a clock.
Yeah.
So I think because it's American that there's a lot of people who have naysayers about it. There certainly are some benefits without it.
Yeah. And then that's a cultural thing. I think
totally.
I don't know. You could point to any NCAA sport that clock is not visible, from a spectator standpoint, and coaches understand what they can do and where they are at any given moment. So, yeah. And the other argument against is, and I'd be totally fine if we went to a full IFAB. Yeah. But the other argument is, look what IFAB has done or FIFA has done in the last handful of years, the World Cups and whatnot. How much time are we adding? We're accounting for every second.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of stopping the clock.
Exactly. It's not a simple thing without a doubt. So I appreciate your candid response, and I recognize it's not so simple.
And I will say it does present some game management differences at the end of a game.
Oh. But that's the thing. It's so interesting. We talk about that there's this finite clock in soccer as opposed to college football or NCAA basketball. You've got lots of opportunities for the opposing team to do things to potentially stop the clock, whether it's call a timeout or foul someone or something like that, and you stop the clock and get possession. Well, in soccer, if it's a throw-in, someone could just slow jog down to take that throw in and 15, 20 seconds off that clock or whatever it is. There's just ways to manipulate the system. It's not as simple. And then there can be a lot of consternation and people getting frustrated. Oh my gosh, the time's running down, all that kind of stuff.
There's some different game management techniques. Yeah. And that's the old, what you allow, you encourage them to keep doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Silly.
I want to talk about how people can get into college soccer and actually get NCAA assignments. Let's talk a little bit about, first off, climbing the referee ladder. What do you see that as? Like, how would someone go about like climbing that referee ladder from going from grassroots to maybe that high level USYS type games and then eventually soccer? How do you see that progressing? How much time do you think that takes?
Yeah. So I guess the first thing to do is just talk about if you were to say, where does NCAA or college soccer, obviously there's NEI, junior college and other organizations, but let's say, where does college soccer fit into the pyramid, so to speak, right? And so for me, it's somewhere between when you go from lower level youth to more advanced youth to we're paying lots of money to professional coaches youth to amateur and then professional and whatever. So it probably fits in right into the amateur, between the amateur and the professional. And it arguably the Division III is mostly, you could argue that's more on the amateur side. Once you start getting to Division II and Division I, we're rounding the corner to sports entertainment. So we're not off. NIL is a thing in all sports, and it's going to continue to be a thing at all sports. So we're right on the cusp of what I would say amateur soccer, top amateur soccer, rounding the bend to sports entertainment, somewhere in there. And from a progression standpoint, if you're working at the top youth level and at the amateur level, NCAA soccer is probably a fit for you if you're interested in doing it. If you're okay with keeping the time on the board, come to the NCAA. But that's where it fits in. And really, if you want to get involved, you really should be working that U19, U18, U19, the under 23s and UPSLs and the NPSLs and those kinds of things. Regional referee, I would say that's a great target. If you're a regional referee, I think that's a really good fit. We do not have 5,380 regional referees in this country, I don't believe. For others that do not aspire to be regional referee, but really want to work at a very high level, I think it's a good fit. And they're working in their state associations, the amateur game. I think that's a good fit for people. So
let's talk about that. So for those referees who are looking for that next level of challenge, that are comfortable at that 18, 19, you're doing maybe the UPSL in their area, as you said, the adult amateur competitive. We're not talking Sunday League. I mean, these are competitive 11v11 intense games. College might be the right thing. How does someone go about finding their way into college, though? Is it just a national thing? I mean, is there a national assigner? How does someone get started?
Yeah. So the assignments. So listen, when you get to me in the championships, we're a member organization, right? So you don't start with me. You work for conferences, right? And get recommended to the championships. And then our team evaluates people and who we're going to use. And of course, where the games are and who's available and best of the best and all those things. But the best thing is really, if you're involved working at a high level and you keep working more challenging games and whatnot, it's really talking to the other senior referees. The referees are more experienced. They'll tell you, oh, in my area, joined this organization, or how I work for this junior college assigner, or this Division III assigner, or this Division I assigner. And we're always looking for good people, right? And I think that's the best way to go about doing it. You could go on the NCAA website and fill out an interest form. There's a large group called the NISOA, that is the National Collegiate Soccer Officials Association. Roughly 90% of our NCAA registered referees are members of NISOA. So there's ways to get into those organizations and whatnot. But really, it's about moving up. And I think you'll agree with this. So I hope you will. The referees talk to each other, right? Mm-hmm. Just working at a high level and being like, hey, what's next for me? And this might be more this challenging for you. And college soccer is really challenging. It's really the best. It's really competitive. It's fat. And in a lot of cases, it is not a taboo subject. I can tell you, Carrie Seitz and Brian Hall and I talk all the time, and it's part of the conversation in terms of development and those kinds of things, right? The best way to do it is continue to work with the people you talk to, the leaders in your local referee communities, and how to get involved. And if you have a question, gmail.com. Send me an email and we'll get you pointed to the right people to ask those questions, answer them for you.
Yeah. So my understanding, and again, I've done some college friendlies, but it has not been anything like sanctioned. It's been preseason games. But in my area, I believe we have a Georgia chapter of NISOA, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
So there's an application process to go there. Same thing for South Carolina. So there are some regional chapters of these national bodies. And then there are assigners. Each one of these different conferences may have an assigner. And there are some assigners who cover large parts of the United States and some that do smaller. But it's just like anything else. Like in my area, if you're doing MLS Next, you got Mike Wright. If you're doing ECNL on the south side, you got Tariq. That really depends on who's assigning those games.
Yeah, the assignments are in what we call them as the conference coordinators. Those are the people that manage the vast majority of assignments at the collegiate level. And that's no different than U.S. Soccer and your local area who assigns what events or what leagues or whatnot. But listen, we're always looking for good people. So
yeah,
it's a good challenge. And the other part is it's not competing against U.S. Soccer. It's really developing people at a high level. And I don't know what to say other than,
I just want to say, I just hate when people poo like things like college soccer or high school soccer or recreational soccer. I had someone just the other day say to me, "Oh, you're wasting your time in high school." I was like, "Why? Like, it's fun. The kids have fun. There's atmosphere."
Where's your passion?
I know.
I was like, "Oh, I have a chance to go out and work in a venue that I'm really passionate and have a lot of fun with, and I feel like I contribute and serve the game." Yeah. Don't do that. Of course you do that.
It's settled down.
It's like, I don't want to be a college soccer referee. That's okay. What do you want to do? I want to referee under 7. Great. What can we do to help you? Right.
Yeah. There's a game for everyone. That's what I always say. It's what I say. I do want to ask you, so aside from the clock, like obviously I understand the clock, it's a thing. How is reffing in college different from other officiating environments?
Yeah. Great question. That wasn't on the cheat sheet, David. No, this is good. No, so back in 1993, when I first started refereeing college soccer, it was very different. We didn't like to give out a lot of red cards, and we didn't allow yellow cards in college. And the running joke would be like, that's a red card in a U.S. soccer game, and that's a yellow card in college on a nasty tackle, right?
Yeah, so I just want to say, as you bring that up, like I have noticed college is physical. It is a physical game. My gosh.
But think of the percentage of players that play through the youth level or the high school level, the percentage of players that play at the collegiate level, not a big number. Yeah. And so a lot of times they're big and strong or fast, right? And a lot of skill, or you're a clogger and your job is to clog people up, right? Yeah, no, it's a very physical game. Like I said, I think earlier, it's speed, a lot of speed, physical, those kinds of things. And back when I started in the early 90s in college, it's a kind of, we call it a very different than U.S. soccer game. Not so much anymore. And in fact, we don't expect it to be called differently. If that's a red card here, it's a red card there, right? And so we've come really leaps and bounds over the last however many years, whatever that math is for me being involved, in terms of closing the gap, in terms of how things are officiated. And we're getting closer and closer. And for my money, it's really not all that different in terms of officiating. And the difference was coaches really had a lot more say on the college side, where back in the day, and they still have a lot of say, don't get me wrong, but that culture has changed, where a lot of younger coaches have come through now, and a foul is a foul, a red card is a red card, those kinds of things. I think what you'll see, probably the main difference right now, is you'll see how are treated. If you watch a professional game, there won't be too much of a conversation when the referee goes over there. Typically, they're coming over, give the caution or whatever they're doing. There's a little more management on the coaches on the college side.
Yeah.
And that's a bad thing. By the way.
No, listen, I think it's a good thing. I think these days, every game's being videoed, right? So that's a massive change. Everything can be seen in slow motion now.
Sure.
So again, referees are being evaluated, right? And they're being assessed with video as well. So they need to make sure that they're applying the laws of the game. Do you use the same considerations for challenges in the NCAA? Yeah. Okay. So the gap definitely should be coming together now, especially as, my gosh, it seems like at Division I level, 40-50% of the rosters are internationals. You got kids from Brazil and Spain and Sweden and England. My gosh, it is an international game.
You'll actually see it going the other way now. So for example, if there's a challenge and at the professional level versus the amateur level of soccer, we could say professional, that's a yellow card and here's why. And the amateurs, no, it's a red. We want a red. And we tend to lean towards the red. And you actually see some instances where I won't be surprised if that's a red card for NCAA and that is a yellow card in MLS or USL Championships. I'm not saying either is wrong. It's just, we are so close now. We are so close. It's literally just leaning one way or the other in terms of how referees are taught consideration. And remember, pro is sports entertainment. We are round on the corner for sports entertainment. And the NCAA side. So we're really close.
Can you talk about that 1 second? Like when you say the words sports entertainment. Like I get, obviously we've got something that's on TV. We're trying to keep it competitive. We want to keep everyone on the field a lot of times. And it feels, but what does that mean to you, sports entertainment, as it relates to the soccer that we're seeing being played?
Yeah. So go on ESPN Plus. Every Division I game is streamed, right? With announcers and all sorts of things, which is make a lot of money. There's NIL money. I think there'll be a point where players will be making more money in college than they do in the pros for their first year or so, right? Not unlike the Caitlin Clark,
right?
Type of thing, right? So there's a lot of those players will end up playing professionally, right? So it's the precursor for professionalism a lot of times. Division III is a little different, right? The focus there is really on amateurism and participation and those kinds of things. The biggest difference, honestly, between the games, and if you ever go to a clinic that I'm speaking at or someone, they're student athletes at the end of the day. We got to get to class. We got to create an environment where they're going to class tomorrow. I can't have people missing class because they have a head injury because they took an elbow on an aerial challenge or something, or they're limping in on crutches because you were just had such little regard for their safety. Can't happen. And so this is why we err more on the safety side, I would say. And you'll see considerations as thought through by professional athletes with professional referees are slightly different sometimes. Just kind of, geez, if that was me, I'm giving a red card. Why is referee X giving a yellow in a professional game, right? These are the things.
It's a different environment, without a doubt. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your role as an assessor and evaluator for referees. You're doing it at the pro level, but obviously you're looking for officials to be in the championships, so the biggest competitions that there are in the NCAA. Can you talk a little bit about when you're evaluating for NCAA or pro, what are the qualities or the intangibles that stand out the most to you? What are you looking for in a ref?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the national camps a couple of years ago, Rick Eddy was still in development, the director of referee development, and he put up a quote. This is back when the national coaches went with the referees. And it's a quote from Jill Ellis, our former national team, women's national team coach. And we're looking for skillful thinkers, right? And it's like, you know what? We're looking for the same people. We're looking for critical, skillful thinkers, right? That can manage games, apply the laws, manage games, manage participants, and they got to be good athletes now. So there's no, want to be an emeritus like me, then hang in the certain circle. But we're looking for athletes that can manage athletes and are skillful thinkers. For me, those are the big things. And when you get to the higher levels and the professional or in the NCAA levels, even whatever, it's all about what was your plan? What's planning going into the game? And how did you adjust your plan based on information that you obtained? Or did you pivot? Or did you make changes? Or did it all go to plan? Did you prepare perfectly and you knew everything that was going to happen? So this is the star player. All right. We know that's the star player and we know they're going to come after that person or whatever it is. Right. And so it's really the critical thinker from planning to executing. And, the one thing I don't like, you've heard the term, keep it simple.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid.
That doesn't really apply at the professional level. And the reason is, that doesn't happen by accident at the professional level. You keep it simple because you're doing all the things you need to do to create an environment that you're just making expected decisions. That's keeping it simple at the professional level because you've prepared, you've planned, you move, you position, you have presence, you know when to manage players, you know when to manage incidents, whatever. And at the end of the day, it's, wow, that professional referee, that game was easy. No, it wasn't. Not correct. There's no such thing as an easy professional game, in my opinion, anyway. And so it's the culmination of being able to plan, prepare, and execute to get to expected decisions to make it look, and then to make it entertaining.
Yeah. Right.
For the fans. And making entertaining is just let the professionals do the professional things, and you're there to guide them with your planning, presence, and execution. So that's for me. Now that's a big, long-winded way of saying those things, but lower levels, keep it simple, call fouls. So yeah, so we're looking for, that's the higher level thinking, right? Or at least for me, it is anyway. And so.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that. I think there's definitely so much that you could be doing in terms of your match day prep. I mean, especially again, you talked about every game is videotaped, right? For the collegiate level, you could be taking some time to watch and see tendencies of teams, how they play, formations, as you said, star players, things of that nature. people who are maybe the hothead of the team, whatever that might be. There's all sorts of ways that you not only prepare to deal with it on the field, but also that you're mentally prepared. You know that these things are going to happen coming on in. There's just so many things off the field you could do to be a great referee.
And you
on the field.
you can prepare at all levels. There's always information available at whatever level you're working. What are the stakes of the game, right? It's even that level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to ask you a couple of questions just about mentoring. So you're a national coach as well?
National referee coach, yeah.
So you're a national referee coach.
Mhm.
So I want to talk about, first off, like why you do that? Like how important is it for you to be giving back and supporting the next generation? You were a national referee.
Mhm.
How important is it for you now to give back and develop those next referees who are coming up?
I hate to sound sappy, but I love it. I love it. And when they combined the assessor and instructor grades and made us into coaches, however many handful of years ago or whatever that was, I took that literally. And I was like, all right, I'm a coach now. I'm no different than coach on the side. And so I'm a cheerleader first. My goal in life is to just be there and cheer on the referees. If I'm at an event and I'm a coach and a referee gives a penalty kick decision and I happen to be walking by, I'll yell at, great call. I don't care. I really don't. I'm just a cheerleader. And the whole point is if you can help people or facilitate conversations where they can start thinking about how they can be a little bit better, how they can something a little differently, I'm happy. It's all about giving them, the referees, enough, just to push them in a direction on a conversation to help them critically think to the right answer. I love that stuff all day long. And I love working with young people. It's exciting. And I learn a lot from them too. Hey, again, hate to sound sappy. I love that stuff. I love being on the field and just walking around. I don't get a lot of chances to do that, to go to a lot of events. I can't travel for long periods of time because I have a special needs son.
Yeah.
But when I do, I'm out there for a day or two or three. I love doing the coaching.
Yeah, John, I literally run a channel called Refs Need Love Too. I understand sappy.
Yeah.
I totally get it. Get it. Like a couple more questions for you. So what do you think are the biggest challenges facing our referee community today?
Oh, numbers. They're overexposed and overworked. That's easy. And part of it is some of the culture of behavior that has scared people away. Part of it's the pandemic. Lots of different referee pools were significantly reduced as a result of that. For me, I think we need a lot more people involved. Yeah. I always give the speech, listen, if you like soccer, if you're passionate about it, if you've ever watched a game, but really, if you're a good person and you like soccer, come aboard. We'll work with you. We'll help you become a referee, or we'll help you. And again, we're not saying you have to go and work in the World Cup. You need people at every level. And the problem is people get burned out because they're doing too much. And so I'd love to see us really focus on bringing more and more people into the mix, and that will create more opportunities and just not a bunch of tired people out there that get aggravated when they're not treated well. Yeah. It's a lot easier when you're not treated well and it's your one game of the day to digest that than it is when you get off your fourth game, which is 3 too many. And what the hell am I doing this for? Right.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge, just from my perspective, is a lack of community for many referees. And I think it's, what I often see is I'll see a post or someone will send me a message and they've had a really bad game and they are thinking about giving up. Yeah. And it's just because they take it home with them, right? So they've had a bad game. They feel like they've made a bad call that could have cost the outcome of the match, or they've had an aggressive spectator or aggressive coach or aggressive player. And they're like, why am I doing this? And then they go home. They're an independent contractor, right? Mm-hmm. They go back to their house. Their wife and kids don't understand. Their friends or their colleagues they work with don't understand. When they're on their own, like stewing with this, and it's like building up in their mind, they're like, forget this. I'm not going back. I'm not doing it anymore. Right. I wish there was more of a place that referees could share these experiences together without judgment, in a positive, supportive environment. And I think especially those new referees who are starting out, whether it's a teenager or a 40-year-old like I was when I started, finding a mentor, someone who can help guide them through the experience and share these experiences with, that is so huge. And I love what you're doing with the education in the NCAA and the center circle. And
by the way,
currently throwing this out.
if you go to the NCAA Stern Circle, if you have a rules question, you want to ask Rich Grady, you just go on there and say, ask Rich Grady a rules question. You have a question for Collins, ask us a question. It comes to us and we'll respond privately. And if we think it's important, we'll share it with the group. But let me just touch on something you said, because you didn't ask, but I feel I'm not shy, as you've probably determined. Experiential learning is so important. And you said you've been doing this for 10 years?
Yes, sir. 11 now.
So you came in, the video clips, considerations, all this kind of stuff, right? Planning softwares, all this. We didn't have any of that, right? We had to go to meetings and be in the community and talk to people, right? And there's a big difference. Listen, webinars are great for those kinds of things, but it's also really great to get in a room with people and listen to the stories and go out to have dinner and whatever. That's how you find your mentors, right? It's, oh, hey, this is John. We met the other night. I had a game. Could I ask you a question, right? And then, by the way, code, I'm asking you to be my mentor, right? More experiential learning, I think, is where we need to go. And you can see, right, from the video clip stuff. Now with U.S. Soccer, we like the field sessions. What is that? It's experiential learning in person with people. Sense, right?
Agreed.
Right? So anytime you're in a clinic, even if you're in a clinic, if we do a webinar, that's great. But if we do a clinic, the same group of people, and the instructor's walking around, body language, we're having a good time, we're digging in, whatever, that experience is so much different. And so it can do for experiential learning all the way through, I think will be helpful. And listen, COVID was not fun, right? And it's going to take a decade. Pick an area of the world or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? We're working our way back. So I think the more experiential learning we can get to, because experiential learning to my generation of referees was we always say, we train when we referee. That's how we train. That's our experiential learning, doing games. But anyway, I think more and more of that, which is why I love referees getting out of their comfort zone, being invited to tournaments, saying, oh, geez, I'm going to go referee in Idaho or wherever Bowen is sending people or whatever it is. I think that's great. And the fact, building education and partnerships in terms of training around that, I think is so big. And kudos to assigners that are open to bringing people in from out of the area too. Right? I think that's so important. And just not to tell you an old war story, when I was coming through, you would go to youth regionals. That was a big one, right? Ooh, okay. Or the or amateur regionals or whatever it was, right? You learned so much just being in the referee tent, talking to other people from other states, things you've never considered. That's the priceless stuff. And that's the community I think you're talking about, right? I got friends all over the country. I do this to build my friend network. This is great. But I think the more and more we can do that, I think and there's this generation, the younger people, they have the ref is life or whatever they call it. And there you go from tournament to tournament. And they do all those things and that's great. But the more we can do that, even at the local level, just bring people to work with them and give them opportunities to think about it a little bit more than going home. I think that's good because it just gives you a tremendous amount of life skills for the right kids.
I completely agree, man. John, just as we wrap up here. So for those who are, let's say, NCAA college curious, referee curious, where should they go to find out more and potentially sign up?
So you can email me at ncaaSoccerofficials@gmail.com. That's easy enough. There is and I'll point you to the interest form on the website, the NCAA website, and I'll point you to the right referee leaguers. If you're interested in working with any of the conference assigners or things like that, or if you're interested in ISO, we can redirect you and get you involved and see if it's a good fit. No? And like I said, we are looking for good people, meaning good individuals, kind people.
Listen, I went to college with a good Italian friend of mine. His name was Pete Civitelli, and that was the highest compliment he can give you. He's like, hey, yo, you good people. Yes, it says it all right there. Good people, good character, work hard, do the planning in advance, plan to your fitness, your nutrition, watching film, studying the laws of the game, getting to know the teams, getting to know your crewmates, having a good pregame, everything you need to do in advance to be successful on the field. Trust me, it's all about being good people and a good referee too.
Yeah. And I think we're out of time here soon, but anytime I'm happy to come back. But I think one of the things you wanted to talk about was what's the catchphrase you like, right? So I'm going to give you one, right? So you've heard of the one, I think, expect the unexpected as a ref, right? Yeah. A couple of years ago, Pro changed that and I totally stolen it and I use it every chance I get, right? And so instead of expecting the unexpected, plan for the unexpected. What's your plan? How do you pivot? How do you make adjustments? And that's everything from off the field to on the field to off the field again to those kinds of things. So
I love that. Plan for the unexpected. Wise words from John Collins. It's fantastic, man. John, thank you so much for being on the pod today. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Anytime, happy to help. Anything I can do. And again, thank you for everything you're doing with the, what do you call it? The 98% of referees.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm a finance guy. I should be able to do the math. Yeah. I call it the hundreds of thousands, 100,000 referees I think that's your 98%.
Yeah. The 98% that are grassroots, certainly, but it's the players, the coaches, the spectators. It's the entire community. We're trying to change a culture of a culture, without a doubt, and provide community for those 98%.
And anytime we see someone like Ishmael working in the World Cup, or Tori Pensogan in the World Cup final, or any of our referees working at the highest level at the MLS or at the collegiate level, the national championship game, or whatever it is, trust me when I tell you, none of that happens without the 98% of people doing it. And so when you see someone like that performing at that level, that's all of us. So I hope your community and your followers understand that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. John, again, thank you so much for being on the pod. Guys, I hope everyone really enjoyed today's podcast. This is just a fantastic conversation. I have to tell you, I worked a UPSL game last night, and one of my colleagues was like, "Are you doing college this next year?" And I was like, okay. He talked me into it. I was like, now I need to sign up. So I'm definitely good. John, I will let you know when I work my first college match. It'll be fun, but I'm excited and inspired.
If you're doing the preseason games or the spring games, do the regular season, get the big money. What are you doing? So
I got to do it. I've done a couple friendlies in the spring. It's time to really do the main season. But John, again, thank you so much. And just for everyone out there, again, we so appreciate your support of the Refs Need Love To channel. It really has had I can't even describe how many people message me about how much they enjoy the content that we're putting out there. But again, that sense of community, that someone hears me, that someone understands me. So guys, when you listen to the podcast, you share it with your friend, or you go to the Refs Need Love To online store and you purchase some fun socks, or you purchase some flags or cards or something of that nature. All of that gets poured back into making this channel possible. Seriously, I so appreciate you, John. I so appreciate you and everyone out there. I wish you all the best, and I hope your next match is red card free.